When TaylorMade releases new drivers, the industry takes note. In this video, I'm going to be taking an in-depth look at the 3 new models. So without further ado, meet Qi35. So what have we got? Well, as normal for TaylorMade, we've got the LS model, which is the more compact low spin offering. We've got their core or standard model in the middle, and we've now got the Max, the 10K inertia maximum forgiveness model at the end. Now, before I get into the tech, I have to say these things look incredible. I absolutely love this kind of light gray carbon effect that we've got on the crown here, and it really is a different color to anything else on the market at the moment. So I think this is a masterstroke from TaylorMade. From a marketing point of view, when you see this out on tour in the bags of your Rory McIlroys, your Scotty Schefflers, you're gonna know exactly what it is. Reminds me a bit of when they released the R11 driver back in the day with the white head. You knew exactly what you were looking at on the TV. This matte finish gives it such a premium feel. It looks like the interior of some sort of supercar, and I'm thrilled to say they've stuck with the infinity crown that they brought in the Qi10 family instead of having one of those banner strips across the front. It just suits my eye a little bit better. Talking about the front edge, they've also kept this little white line that was brilliant for alignment. I found that really useful on the Qi10 range. And subsequently in my testing of this, once again, it's really useful for alignment. Now this lineup is super minimalistic in terms of its coloring. There's next to nothing, but the tiny accents that there are kind of a vibrant, light yellowy green. They've been used super sparingly, and I think that's really to the benefit of the look here. Now, as always with visuals in anything in life, it's all totally subjective. What you like, I might not like, and vice versa. But for me personally, I can't remember liking the look of a driver family as much as this in years. So that's a great start with the looks, but we want to know about the technology, right? And as always, there is quite a heavy tech story that has sculpted the development of this range. So heavy, in fact, that I've had to come back to my office and grab a pen and a whiteboard to do some explaining. So the story of this Qi35 range is all about CG, or more accurately, CG projection. Now you probably all know what CG is. It's the center of gravity, or essentially the point at which the driver head is perfectly balanced. And I've represented that here with this little circle with the cross in. But CG projection is kind of a new term to some of us. So that's represented here by the dashed line heading out towards the face. It's basically where this CG projects onto the face relative to the loft. So we'll call that this point here. Now TaylorMade are telling us that's very, very important because that has a huge influence on the ball flight characteristics such as launch and spin. So generally speaking, when you strike beneath that CG projection, you'll get one of those lower launching, higher spinning ball flights that we know can rob us of distance. So TaylorMade have been working on what they call their area of opportunity, which is creating more space to hit above that CG projection to give us those high launching, low spinning ball flights that we know result in optimal distance. But it's tricky because they want to also make a driver more forgiving. So when people have been dragging CG locations back, so if we pretty much go horizontally back from that other CG location, what we'll see there is, based on the loft of the face, the CG projection raises again, which lowers our area of opportunity to get those optimal ball flights. So what TaylorMade have done is they've saved a lot of discretionary rate in the hosel and the crown area, and they've moved that weight around the head as low and as far back as possible, thus moving that CG back, but also keeping it as low as possible to get much lower CG projection and increase that area of opportunity that's going to allow us to hit longer drives more often. Simple, right? So let's go through the family model by model, starting with the low spin or the LS model. Now I was really interested to see this time round because on tour last year with the Qi10 range, the LS didn't actually pick up much traction. Players like Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler actually favoured a version of the core model and put that in place. So I was intrigued to see what had changed, and in terms of the head shape at least, very little. It's almost identical to the Qi10 LS in the playing position. So the more compact pear-shaped head remains, but the weight track that sat underneath on the Qi10 LS has been replaced with some interchangeable weights. We've also got a third at the back in this rear weight position. In terms of the raw performance data, I haven't actually seen much difference between the new LS and the Qi10 LS in terms of speed and spin numbers. However, one thing I really did pick up on is it feels a lot more playable than the Qi10 LS for me. Last year's model, whilst brilliant and very low spin and quick, I did find it quite volatile on those miss hits, which is why I wonder if a lot of those tour players that I've referred to there, your Rorys and your Scotties, opted into the core model for just that little bit more forgiveness. In terms of the impact feel and the acoustics, I really like it. It does feel a touch firmer and a bit more robust than last year's range, but that's a feeling I really like, and that continues throughout the whole family. All in all, this LS model does exactly what it's supposed to do, and those of you who love a little bit more of a compact, pear-shaped profile and low spin characteristics are gonna love this driver. In terms of ball flight and spin and overall performance, it'll do exactly what you're hoping it will do. However, I think this next driver might give it a bit of a problem. So on to the main Qi35 head, and as soon as I picked this up, I knew I was gonna like it. I'm a sucker for a rounded profile in a driver, and they don't come much rounder than this. It's one of the reasons I leaned into the core model from last year in the Qi10, and they've actually made it even rounder. So much so, when you put them down next to each other now in hindsight, the old Qi10, which I thought was really rounded, actually looks a little bit pear-shaped in comparison. So not only the looks hit the spot here for me, I found the performance exactly what I was looking for. It had a lively feel, albeit a touch firmer than last season's model. It provides a seriously powerful impact feel, and the data is tough to argue with. Now, in the neutral weight setting, I found this an incredibly safe and user-friendly driver. Plenty of spin, but nothing excessive, and I found a lot of fairways in this setting. But what I really like about this is these two interchangeable weights make a massive difference. As soon as you flip it around and get more weight to the front, I was seeing about 200 to 250 revs difference in spin, almost activating beast mode, if you like, and producing a really low penetrating ball flight with minimal spin that really upped my distance output. I did sacrifice a little bit of accuracy in that setting, but that's to be expected when you're moving that CG forward. And I love the versatility this offers. You're almost getting two drivers in one here. Now, this is where I do wonder whether this head could be a problem for the LS model. Essentially, like I said, if you're in that neutral setting, it is a different driver. If you want to flip it over and move that weight forward, you're getting a really similar spin profile to the LS, but in a much more user-friendly shape with a touch more MOI. So once again, I do worry about the LS with the quality of this Qi35. Sorry to interrupt. If you are enjoying this content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. We've got loads of great content coming out this review season, so you won't want to miss any. And last but by no means least, the Qi35 Max. Now, last year was a huge year for high MOI drivers, and the Qi10 Max was a real success at retail. In my testing, I found it lacked a little bit of the oomph of some of the other models that were professing to have 10K, but that's really been addressed with this new Qi35 Max. So although, as you would expect and hope, the spin has jumped up a little bit from the core model here, it is far from excessive. One thing I did find with the Qi10 Max last year was my spin numbers got a little bit out of control, and that cost me in the distance regard. But with the Qi35, I'm actually spinning at around 200 revs per minute less than I did the Qi10 Max, and I haven't sacrificed any dispersion. When I tested this out, I had a fitting at the TaylorMade HQ in Basingstoke. You could throw a blanket over all of my test balls. It was incredible, the tightness of the dispersion there. And in my subsequent testing sessions, that has continued. Now, TaylorMade actually contacted me last year after my reviews of the Qi10 range, because I was reporting some quite reduced speed numbers in the Qi10 Max in particular. And what we found was quite interesting. The Qi10 Max itself would actually play about 1/4 of an inch shorter than the rest of the range. Because the head had been squashed down to facilitate that wider head to increase the MOI, the hosel had shrunk a little bit, which made it play about 1/4 of an inch shorter, as I said, and I was actually losing clubhead speed. And when I lost that clubhead speed, obviously that generally translates into ball speed. Now, in the Qi35 Max, they have addressed it. The hosel's gotten slightly longer, so we're gonna play the same shaft length throughout this entire range. That's gonna maintain that speed, and that's what I've seen in testing. My distance numbers have really jumped up because of it. However, with the Max, distance isn't really the main story, although it is impressive. It's the dispersion that's the really standout factor for me. Off miss hits, off heel toe, high, low, the stability of this head is simply fantastic. And I don't think I've ever hit a driver straighter than I hit this thing. So to summarize, the TaylorMade driver drop is one I always look out for, and this one has not disappointed me at all. Starting with the looks, they've absolutely smashed it out of the park. I can't remember a driver family I've liked the look of more in recent years at all. This light grey carbon finish I think is a masterstroke in terms of marketing, and it just looks so clean and minimal. And the minimal theme continues with the accent colours. There is some, but like I said, it's been used really sparingly. I think that really benefits the overall look of these clubs. In terms of the model lineup, well, there's three really strong models that have all definitely improved upon their predecessors. The only slight criticism I would have within this range is I do feel that LS model is going to struggle purely based on the quality and the versatility of the main Qi35 model. I can't see why you'd push yourself into that LS model unless you really like that pear-shaped look, when you can get a very similar spin profile out of the main Qi35 and get a little bit more forgiveness and MOI in there as well. Secondly, while the Qi35 Max is an absolutely brilliant product and it has certainly moved on from the Qi10 Max, the stability's there, the slightly lower spin profile, and as I said, it's just incredibly forgiving. I feel there is a slight lack of a heavily draw bias product within this range. Now, TaylorMade will argue, and I agree, you can add some draw bias in with the loft sleeve by lofting up and changing that face angle, but you can't really do it with the weight setting here. So if you're a really heavy slicer of the golf ball, that might be something to think about, but generally speaking, it's really neutral, it's super forgiving, and it's a great range of drivers. The major highlight of this range for me is that middle Qi35 model. There's nothing I don't like about it. It could well be winging its way into my bag. The looks, the profile, the performance, and the versatility make that a real standout driver of 2025 for me. Another thing worth noting for me is that TaylorMade have released a really clever fitting head of every model that all sort of major fitting accounts with TaylorMade will have access to. And this has got built-in face sensors that are in precisely the right place to give you super accurate launch monitor data and club readings. So this, to me at least, is TaylorMade's most impressive driver family launch since the incredibly successful Sim range. But I want to know what you think about it. I always like reading your comments, so drop them down below. Is this something you're interested in trying out? And what are your thoughts on what we've done here? As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.